Getting fired from a job sucks. I know, because it happened to me 5 times at the start of my career. It really confused me and made me feel quite ashamed as well. But looking back at it, I can see that the root cause was probably my undiagnosed ADHD and autism, which I found out about later in life. Let's go through what exactly happened in those 5 jobs. Job number 1. I got fired basically because I gave inappropriate feedback to my manager. I had basically a personality conflict with her and it just didn't really go well. And they basically thought it was for a consulting role. And they thought, we can't let this guy near customers because he's just a loose cannon. He's going to say things that he shouldn't say, which was maybe true. But I think we also need to factor in that I had been taken to another country for a boot camp. I was away from my normal support network. I wasn't sleeping well. I was pretty overwhelmed in general. And that tends to really cause my moments of lack of filter, which are partly ADHD and partly autism in the way that I phrased it. I don't think it was the right job for me, but perhaps if it had been in the city where I normally live, it may not have happened the way that it did. Job number 2. There were a few things here, but the actual final reason that was given to me was that I was late for a board meeting. I was the CTO of a startup and I was meant to show up on time for a crucial board meeting and I didn't. And what they thought was that I'm just lazy and unorganized and I don't really care. But perhaps the actual cause, if we look at it, I was actually at home in the morning. I was in hyperfocus doing some code and I forgot about the time, completely lost track of time and really tried to get there, but it was too late and I rocked up about 10 minutes late. There were other things as well that will be similar to some of the other reasons that I discuss later, but yeah, I do wonder how important is punctuality anyway. I have gotten better at it, but to me, it doesn't seem like that big a deal. Job number 3. The reason is basically that I got fired because I didn't finish the assignment that I was given. And this has been a bit of a trend for me, that I start jobs with massive enthusiasm and I perform really well in the beginning. And then my motivation starts to trail off. And in this particular situation, it was a freelance gig. I also had other people asked me to do work and I basically got distracted by the other jobs and I ended up not following through on the original one. And perhaps the cause again is related to hyperfocus, that initially I was hyperfocusing on that task. And the problem with hyperfocus is that at times I can achieve so much in a very short amount of time. And I start assuming that I can do that all the time when the reality is that it is quite unpredictable. And it meant that the timelines that I had given were based on me essentially being in hyperfocus 24/7 or maybe 16/7. And I just couldn't keep it up. I ended up getting distracted with other jobs and started fixating on them instead. And this poor client ended up not getting the work done. And fair enough, they let me go. Basically the same reason for number 4. And there may have even been more than that, smaller jobs as well. But this is really a pattern for me, that I'm a great starter and not necessarily a great finisher. Job number 5 related again to having no filter. In this case, what happened was I basically asked for a pay rise at an inopportune time, and it really upset my manager. He felt like I was being disloyal and trying to screw him over because I was basically asking to get paid public holiday pay on a normal day. And he felt like I wasn't there, I wasn't reliable, and he let me go. He didn't give me any more shifts after that. The actual cause was probably, it was a job that was very hard for my brain to actually enjoy. It was a quality assurance job where I was looking at forms and I had to check whether the computer scanning system had interpreted the paper form correctly. Really quite mind-numbing work. I had done it for a couple of years. I don't know how I managed it for that long, often because I was multitasking at the same time and listening to French lessons. But I really didn't want to continue that job. So it was probably a blessing for both of us that I didn't continue. I do want to end by saying it does get better. I haven't been fired since then. I have actually performed quite well in the job since then. Partly it's that I got diagnosed with ADHD and autism, and I know myself a fair bit better. And I've also developed better executive functioning, and I'm generally a bit better with my social skills and the way that I word things. But I think some of the bigger aspects are that the jobs that I've taken since then, I have loved the work and the mission. I felt like the company or the organization is doing important work, and it's very easy for me to be motivated in that case. Where there's a misalignment between what I believe is important and what the company believes is important, that's pretty hard for me to function well. But it has been better in the job since then. I've basically become an entrepreneur, and even in my current job, I sold my last business to a larger company, and now I'm basically doing the same work within a large company. So I enjoy what I'm doing. I feel like I've got control. I feel like it's important. And the other two things there, I'm not necessarily doing too much customer facing work, because that was one of the downfall. I think job number 2 I mentioned, I got fired because they were concerned that I would say inappropriate things to customers. Now I deal less with customer support, and it's probably a better thing. I found that typically if I'm in a team that I know well and they know me and they know that I don't actually mean some of the things that I type, sometimes it's normally not what I say, it's what I type in chat, that if I'm tired or overwhelmed, I can be quite brusque in my chats or emails, and they know not to take it personally. And I also typically apologize quickly. And then the final thing is I've been able to work from home in my last couple of jobs, and that is so much better in terms of the sensory overwhelm that I talked about with job number 1. If I am in a comfortable place that I'm used to, I can control the noise levels, the lighting levels, and I can have a nap if I need to, so I'm not tired in the middle of the day. I can perform much better. And I do think that for people who are neurodiverse, finding a role that is going to be supportive, that they like the mission and the vision, and they're able to shape it in terms of making sure that their colleagues are supportive and that the workplace environment fits the way their brain works, it's possible to perform really well and potentially perform better than a neurotypical person. And one last tip on the executive functioning side is I've built an app, Focus Bear, which is really designed to help with some of the challenges of executive functioning in terms of getting distracted. And also it's got a punctuality feature with the side app Late No More. So I'd love you to try it out and give me some feedback.